Good evening. My name is Scott Binsack. I am one of the co-producers of Something Smoking in Shamokin, as well as one of the original developers of the show. It is a reality TV show that has come to light as a result of some positive efforts that I, as a consultant, recommended to Stephen Crone and others, owner of Hometown Revitalization Group, as well as S&S Capital. I've lived in Shamokin roughly about a year and a half, and since coming here, I came to see a city that once was, that now seems to me dead. And when I say dead, I mean that it was left to die. And I'm coming before you tonight because some serious events have come to light over the past week concerning my future, my safety, my friend's safety, my family's well-being. This entire matter has started as a result of a prospectus that, after I was reached out to by Stephen Crone to be a consultant, to consult him on purchasing real estate in this area, because I had talked to him about how good this area would be to redevelop, because Shamokin is a great city, as is Cole Township, and was once a thriving community, as people can see from pictures being recently posted by us on our Facebook page. We did not come to set out to make a reality show about Shamokin. That was a result of the severe backlash that we got when presenting a prospectus to Shamokin City Council. Thereafter, I appeared on the cover of the newspaper, as well as Stephen Crone was smashed through there in his reputation as if he was a part of me, meaning my past. And yes, people watching this who know me, and those who don't, I do have a past. And it is a past that, if you believe the newspapers, which are owned by the same company, Time Shamrock Communications, from the Pocono Record to the Scranton Times to the local paper, the News Item, you will see they all say the same things over and over and over again. I'm not a perfect person, by far, but I have never had to be a thief or steal from anybody or scam anybody. And I believe it's now time, because by Monday I could be in jail on an alleged technicality, not a new crime, but an alleged technicality of my agreement with the state. And this has come as a result of a corrupt police chief here in the city, as well as Stephen Bartos on the city council. And yes, I have evidence of this. I have a video of the police chief and Mr. Bartos even screaming at Mr. Crone and I while going to City Hall to get a simple building permit. Strangely, thereafter, I got approached by a parole agent and questioned what my involvement was in S&S Capital, Hometown Revitalization Group, and S&S International Property Group, LLC, out of Nevada. These companies, I am a consultant to. A consultant. Why? Because I have an agreement for the next amount of months to not own or operate my own business. I decided to become a consultant because I'm also legally blind, and if people could check PennDOT, they will see I've become legally blind almost 6 months ago. I have to earn a living somehow, since I'm being told, and it is an illegal order that I'm not allowed to operate a company under the due process of the United States, and there's a Third Circuit Court of Appeals case that clearly reflects the same. But I have lived by this condition, and I continue to live by this condition. However, there was, even at a recent city council meeting that I was supposed to attend a week ago, I got a phone call from a very reliable official source that I was going to be set up and that my parole agent was going to be there and that the police chief, Griffith, had contacted her. And that if I showed up at the city council meeting, that they were going to make it as if I created a disturbance and I would be in violation of my state rules. Again, now I can't even go to a city council meeting because of the same. And yes, it was admitted to me that my agent was there, etc. This has now become very serious because as of Monday, I could be in prison and most likely placed in Cole Township Prison, where I'm a man, I can handle prison, and I've handled prison time. For past offenses, and I'm going to say the word alleged because to this day, there are numerous attorneys, judges outside of this Commonwealth as well as inside this Commonwealth that look at my cases and simply see this as originally being a malicious, corrupt act to an outsider. In saying this, I now have had death threats. My family has had death threats. I am now possibly going to be placed in prison in harm's way, and this is serious. It has become very, very serious. And so I'm here tonight to tell you a few things, and I'm telling you them from my soul. Not to defend myself, not for any other reason, but because I believe how sad it is that when some good people came to me to help them and give them advice, and I brought them to the city of Shamokin to invest their money, that this is now turned around to not only affect me, but to affect them. And that our show, Something Smoking in Shamokin, will continue on whether I go to jail or not. The evidence that we have will still be produced whether I go to jail or not. Whether this is the last time you see me, ever, it will still happen. And I'm still willing to do the same. Because I'm now going to tell you, and it's about time I tell the world, my wrongs and my rights and how this all came about. Because there are numerous pages of websites, numerous blogs, everybody going off newspaper articles of what my past is alleged to be. I'm going to make this simple. I was born on Long Island in Westbury, New York. I quit school in 8th grade. I had a horrible childhood that I cannot even express to you. I overcame that. I opened my own company at 18 and became a very successful man on Long Island, building multi-million-dollar homes in the Hamptons. To the point where even the magazines that I have appeared in as a result of that, as stated in a prior video, and in newspaper articles written by David Falchuk in the same newspaper owned by the Shamrock Communications, that this reporter even called the editors of these publications and said that these were alleged advertising paid articles. The editors argued with Mr. Falchuk and said that's not the case, and he disrespected one of the top publications on Long Island and in New York. And if anybody knows anything about Long Island has some very prominent people. It is a well-prominent, developed area, and there are several serious business people that live there, as well as famous stars, etc. Long Island is a unique place. I can assure you, I was a very successful businessman there. And I have nothing to hide from it, and I had an impeccable reputation therefrom. In 1998, after I got divorced and got rid of my company in New York, I decided to move to Pennsylvania. When I moved to Pennsylvania, I saw an opportunity in the Poconos to create a development company because I saw the construction that was going on there, and there was no building codes or anything at that time. I opened a company called Coastal Building and Development Corporation. In doing so, I was out of my element from Long Island, and yes, I am an aggressive, cocky businessman at times. And that's how I was taught, and that's how I was raised on Long Island to be. Otherwise, you'll be eaten alive, where I come from. And yes, this was a small town in Monroe County. I came in and opened this company, and we were very successful within the first 3 to 6 months. However, I had a near fatal auto accident, not a motorcycle accident as reported wrongfully by the Scranton Times by David Falchuk. My Lincoln Navigator went off a cliff. It was shown I was thrown over 30 feet in the air. It flipped and flipped. I have a trach in my throat to trach scar to prove it. I have 42 plates in my head to prove it, and it's now why I'm going blind today. Medical records prove the same. When I had this accident, I was advised by an attorney to claim Chapter 11 on my company to save it because I could not work. I did it. I followed the instructions of the attorney. I was new to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and in doing so, at the same time I was approached by the FBI. And the FBI approached me and asked me to testify against someone that I know in New York from an organized crime family. And yes, I grew up knowing certain people in New York. Never did business with them on a regular basis, but they were my friends and I associated with them, like many other people in the United States. I then turned around and refused to testify. In refusing to testify, my life became hell. And I was told that I was being charged in Monroe County with every bankruptcy bill that was listed on the Chapter 11. And any attorneys watching this should know you're not allowed to use criminal prosecution to circumvent a bankruptcy to collect a debt. Specifically in Monroe County, Mark Pazahanich, now a convicted child molester, who was the district attorney at the time for molesting his own child, who was on the Megan's list, and an admitted alcoholic and drug user, prosecuted me for theft by deception on all the charges that were listed on the bankruptcy. This is and one of them was from upstate New York. That's where you get the alleged that I was incarcerated in New York State, etc., etc. I was never incarcerated for fraud in New York State. Point being, simply put, I was charged for every bankruptcy debt. It was a shock to me. I had never been arrested in my life. My father was a police officer. My great uncle was a judge. I never was even arrested as a child. I worked hard and I was a successful businessman. Yes, was I cocky? Did I make personal mistakes? Yes. Am I perfect? No. I don't think anybody on this planet is. After these charges came out, I hired a local attorney in Monroe County, and after telling the FBI I wouldn't help them, the FBI actually even went with the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Eastern District, and I can back this up with documents, everything I'm telling you. Mark Pazahanich refused to drop the charges because the U.S. Attorney said that these were civil matters, not criminal. The Pocono Record started running stories about me, similar to what David Falchuk wrote. And I will be very honest with you. My mother passed away a few months later, and I'm an only child. That hit me very hard. I was just in a near-fatal auto accident. Now I'm being charged for bankruptcy bills. My mother passes away. I did not know what to do. At that time, I decided, per an attorney, believe it or not, he said, "Scott, I've never seen anything like this." He goes, "They're coming after you personally no matter what. They want you, Mr. Pazahanich, and then the FBI, because I would not cooperate with them." And I will admit that I did not cooperate with the FBI. And it was because I was lied to, etc. That's a whole nother story, but it is the truth. Nor didn't want to be a snitch to a situation that could involve the harm of myself or my family especially. From there, I basically was told to just get out of the country. And I did. I will admit it. I went on the run. I went to Central America. I have been to my home in Antigua at the time. I was all over, trying to figure out how to correct this problem in Monroe County. Mark Pazahanich went to the U.S. Marshals and filed a federal fugitive warrant That's because when somebody's alleged to have jumped, not appeared for court, they go to the feds, the marshal's office, and sign a federal warrant. I was chased for several years on this warrant. Again, for misdemeanors, and yes, there was a couple felony 3s in there, which are basically almost a misdemeanor. They're F3s, all surrounding my bankruptcy. From there, eventually, years later, it all caught up to me, and I was glad that it did, because I did not want to be on the run anymore. I did not want to hide from this anymore, and I was brought back from Atlanta to Pennsylvania. If I knew the law at the time like I do now, I would have never pled to any of those charges, and I was promised at that time, and I have the transcripts to prove it, that because I was a first-time nonviolent offender and I had a 0 gravity score, that I would just get a year with some work release and probation. Instead, I got an illegal sentence of 3 to 8 years. I went to prison. I did my 3 years. I was a model inmate. I fought my case. And I was winning my case in the Superior Court, and documents strangely disappeared, etc. More coincidences. From there, I was released on parole. When I got out on parole, I moved to Lackawanna County because I did not want to be in Monroe County, and I did not want to have any of the effects from this arrest. I was still fighting this case at that time. And this is how I began to learn the law and study the law. In Lackawanna County, I moved there. I was on parole. I opened a company and got permission from parole to open a company named Mansions and Estates International. I still own Mansions and Estates International, 4 companies. They're all in good standing with the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania, and this can be clarified by a simple Google search at the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania. I opened Mansions and Estates, and my honest goal was to prove that I was not this alleged bad person and fraud that Monroe County had made me out to be. Sure enough, I did do that. Mansions and Estates became very successful, and we completed hundreds of jobs. And if anybody knows the construction industry, you cannot complete 10 jobs, 20 jobs, 100 jobs unless you do good quality work, because in the construction industry, reputation follows you. Just like on Long Island, I couldn't become a success, especially there, because word of mouth is everywhere. You do one job for a high-end client and you don't do it right, or you take their money, or you do something, you'll never get another job again. Mansions and Estates, I turned it into, I had my own radio show. And yes, did I rent the space from WILK and Intercom Communications? Yes. Did I pay for the time slot? Yes. But I produced the show, and it was the #1 listened to show on Sunday afternoons. Building and Remodeling in the Millennium. The show became a huge success, as did Mansions and Estates. I spent over $1 million building our showroom, working day and night, and my employees can attest to this, and already have in court attested to this. During this time, however, there was severe corruption going on in Lackawanna County by County Commissioners A.J. Munchak, Bobby Cadero, District Attorney Andrew Jarbrola. The list is endless of corruption in Lackawanna County, and anybody who's followed those cases to this date know that the 2 county commissioners are now behind bars, as I stated before. I was approached, and I was told that if I didn't comply and do X, Y, and Z, that my business would be shut down and I would go to jail. I had only 4 months left on parole from the first offense in Monroe County. I then was told, I hired a private investigator to find out what was going on, because I was told through the grapevine that I was going to be set up. Why? Because I was not cooperating with certain people, and I put a lot of people out of business, and I was not liked. I was loved by X amount and hated by other. Between all of us here, people either love me or they hate me. There is no in between, and I'm sorry, that's the way it is. Am I aggressive? Am I cocky? Yes. But underneath all of this, I'm a good person. I would never want to harm a soul, and that's the truth, unless they harm my family. And I think that's normal for anybody. There's not one client complaint, and I say this again, from the Better Business Bureau against me. There is not one civil lawsuit from a client against me, ever in my history of construction. So here in Lackawanna County, in the middle of all of this, an article comes out in the Scranton Times by David Falchuk exposing that, his words, exposing what I did in Monroe County. And he blew it up on the cover of the newspaper. I was told that morning, I'll never forget that Sunday in July, I was told by my producer with Entercom not to go on my radio show and discuss this newspaper article. I didn't listen, period. I went on and I blasted David Falchuk and called out lie after lie after lie that he stated in there. And not even 2 weeks later, I was arrested when going to pay one of my company's trucks fines for parking in the wrong slot of the local magistrate, by a local magistrate in Scranton. The TV was there, David Falchuk was there, it was all premeditated and set up, and I have proof it was set up by Marianne Grippo and Andrew Jarbrola of the Lackawanna County DA's office, and I've already proved this. If anybody reads my blog, they will see the proof on there. My blog is called Illegally Searched, Seized, and Arrested. And again, I tell you, I'm not a perfect person, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I don't have a reason to ever steal from anybody. I have always used my hands and the gifts that I have because I am a good builder. And for people to say on the internet that I'm not, they obviously don't know the true history, because you can't be successful and build hundreds of homes, like I said, if you're a fraud and you're not a good builder. Long story short, I got arrested for alleged bad checks, as I showed you the last time. And I say alleged because I can show you these documents and they will be posted. These checks came back refer to maker, and the warrants for my arrest were filed prior to the checks ever being processed through the bank. That's by the DA's own hand. I've had people within the DA's office in Lackawanna County come and shake my hand since and say that they were sorry, that this was not their fault, they followed orders of the DA's office. We offered to pay the money on those checks immediately. Attorney Ernest Priate walked into the DA's office, I'll never forget it, 2 days after I arrested, with the cash. He was going to pay in cash the $21,000 of the total checks, and one was for $10,000 to the American Cancer Society as a donation. American Cancer Society has testified, and it's on record in the transcripts, that I donated thousands of dollars every year to the Cancer Society, because I have a big thing with the Cancer Society and it has to do with people in my family, etc. Regardless, that check is not even a bad check because I received nothing back. It was a donation of my own money. David Falchuk then continued to write over 40 plus cover stories about me and all these allegations. And I'm going to say this straight. If everything that he wrote, and I see people on the internet have pulled up an NCIC report. I was arrested twice for multiple charges. So an NCIC report shows the multiple charges. Those are not individual arrests. Those are multiple charges on the first arrest from Monroe County, and then multiple charges on the Lackawanna County. Then anybody who knows how to read an NCIC report, if you look on the side, you will see if there's convictions on them or not. And if you look at them, they're not. I nearly died in Lackawanna County Jail. I was not even given bail like a normal human being even after my parole expired. Judge Michael Berets deliberately refused me my bail. I appealed it and I won in the Superior Court, and this can be verified. He released me on the bail. Then when I won in the lower court before the magistrate to have these alleged insurance fraud charges dismissed, they were thrown out as no basis. The judge the same day pulls my bail without a hearing. We file another emergency appeal to get out on bail. It repeated itself. This constantly went on. This is corruption. These people are tied to corruption. This is corruption. Again, after building my second multi-million-dollar company, this is what happens. I've never had this happen in New York. I've never had it happen on Long Island. And now I get out after the Mansions and Estates issue. Yes, I did plead nolo contendere to a few alleged bad checks. I did that for one reason. After spending 3 years in the county jail, I had no choice. I was nearly dead because of the doctor, Edward Zaloga, who is being sued by numerous inmates, is being investigated by different authorities. I was nearly killed. I predicted that the warden would be fired from there and she would lose her job. I was correct. I helped do that. I helped do that. And yes, I'm talking loud and passionate because this is passionate to me. And this is why I hate corruption. And again, I say it again, I'm not a perfect person. Okay? But one thing I'm not is I've never had to steal anything in my life because all I've had to do is work. And people who know me now, that's all I do is work, even with the disabilities that I have. I will still do my best to work. I come out, I had met someone, and I decided they lived in Shamokin. I moved here. Not for any other reason, but I moved here not to select Shamokin for any purpose or whatever. And when I came here, I saw a wonderful town from what I see. And the history here of coal, of how the city was built by hard work and labor. And I kept asking myself, what happened to the city of Shamokin and Coal Township? Little by little, I was told different stories. I did my own research. I started to fix up my own home. And I then decided I would become a consultant. Not just for Shamokin, meaning a consultant in general to people who wanted me to do work for them. And I said, I can't operate my company yet, not for X amount of months, so I would rather just consult you in your business. And I was approached by Stephen Crone and a few other investors and entrepreneurs, if you want to call them. And I had suggested that they invest in the homes here and that could be renovated to become good rentals and they were at a good price, and that I believe that this city could be rebuilt. And I still believe to this day that this city and township can be rebuilt. In doing so, I had invited Stephen here to look at Shamokin and Coal Township. And him coming himself from a background that he has come from, which I believe he's explained the last time, that he has some coal mining in his history with his family, etc. I brought him here to this city to look, to show him the benefits, to show him all the positives as well as the negatives. And honestly, there are a lot of negatives here. Good people here, but there are negatives as far as how the city and the mayor have run this town for many years. And I will say that. On how politics have destroyed a lot of potential here for years, keeping big companies out to keep the wages at an equal pace. The list goes on and on. And now, after doing so, and Mr. Crone and I developed a prospectus on how we could help this city, we go to a city council meeting, present the prospectus, and once again, it ends up 24 hours later on the cover of the newspaper by the same writer that has been stalking me for years. I'm not a murderer. I'm not a child molester. I'm not any of the above. And I have experts, professionals, who have looked at this entire matter and cannot believe the amount of publicity that I have received and the defamation that I have received over a guy for some white-collar misdemeanor offenses. And no one can understand this except for the few that are from here. Outside looking in, people cannot believe this. I cannot believe this. I'm actually shocked. And now I may have to go back to prison again, not for a new crime, but because it's come to our attention that Stephen Bartos and Chief Griffith and the parole authorities have been targeting me now to say that I broke some condition. I follow every rule that I'm supposed to follow. I do my best, yet there's tons of parole people who are out breaking the law every day, and I see them. And I know who's on parole here and I know who's not. It's not for me to judge them, but yet I'm targeted. And I now have come to the point where I could be in prison on Monday, and I'm letting the public know I may never walk out of that prison. Okay, and no, it's not because of the inmates. It's because of the guards and the medical and etc. that's going to come from it. because there's more to this. There's much more to this. There's evidence upon evidence of things. We have a video, I have a video, that when Stephen Crone and I approached City Hall to simply get a permit and for Mr. Crone to question Mr. Bartos about a comment he made in the newspaper, which he claims he allegedly taped, and if he taped it without anyone giving us knowledge thereof, and that's a crime in itself. And in the back of our car, there was a camera running, and we just didn't even know it either. And it shot the entire scene of the police pulling up, coming in our face, Mr. Bartos screaming, etc. And I had the police chief tell me that he was going to make sure that I end up back in jail. And I said, I haven't done anything. And he's like, well, that doesn't mean anything, and you better not. Word for word. This has gotten so far out of hand on a simple, honest effort to help a city that should be helped. And the good citizens that live here, and there's many. And every day I make more friends. We make more friends, because I say Mr. Crone, because they contact us. We were contacted by a local football team to help them. And the community made it out so badly because I went out to the field, a non-violent, okay, you want to say criminal, fine, a non-violent criminal in my past for some business charges, that I wasn't allowed to go on the field. I was not allowed to do anything. And yet this football team reached out to us for the benefit of the children, and Mr. Crone went out of his way to speak to major corporations to help these children. And now the parents got convinced by what I would call the haters here and the negative ones to not receive our help, his help financially. That is sad to me, that children cannot even receive that, and they need it. These children, I've seen their equipment, and I've seen what the Bears need, and they're good children and have good parents, and they won't, now they're being told to refuse the help of Mr. Crone's company. Now I may go back to jail, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it on camera. If that does happen, that is only going to infuriate this fire, because I can assure you that there are things in place that everything will continue here. And it will be filmed me going to jail, and it will be fought, and the lawyers are in place to do the same. Because I'm not going to stand by anymore and continue to be blamed for things that are not true or that I didn't do. I work hard. I'm a citizen. I do what I'm supposed to do. I'm not out ripping, robbing, or doing anything. And everybody tries to call this a great scam on the internet, on these hate pages that have come up from something in Shamokin's pages. And it's incredible. Common sense will tell you, if there is no money being asked for and only given by investors through Mr. Crone and his associates and some associates that I know, how can it be a scam? We offer to take off the condemned properties off the city's hands. Stephen Bartos is trying to stop that. I will tell you what the problem here is in Shamokin, and this is my opinion. No one else's, I'm telling you my opinion. My opinion is that the city council and the mayor and Stephen Bartos have done a piss-poor job here for years. And I will say that that's my opinion, and I will tell you that that's a major opinion of a lot of people here that I have talked to or have emailed me. And your city is a result of that, not the good people that are here. Shamokin is a wonderful place. The more I study it, the more pictures I post of it, the history that I look at, this is an incredible place and can be again. And I feel the citizens have been cheated for years from industry coming in here because they did not want the industry here. Why didn't they want the industry here? Because if the industry came in, the wages would be higher, then certain local businessmen and others would have to pay higher wages. They would have to have raised the price of properties here, and they wouldn't be able to buy them as cheap as they are getting them now by keeping the area depressed. And I'm making this video, again, not to defend myself because I have made mistakes in my life, but because I care, and I care about what's happened to the families involved in this. I care what's happened to Mr. Crone and his family in this. And he reached to me and I wanted to help him, and I thought Shamokin was a great place to invest. People say, why Shamokin? And no, okay. We say, why not? The true answer is still why not. If this place boomed at one time like it has, it can do it again. People like to constantly, we hear lots of negativity about Shamokin and Cole Township when there shouldn't be. There should be positive. From all of this, and from us standing up and doing something about it, I see positive things going on in the community. Cleanups, things are changing, code enforcement officers are doing their jobs, etc. I even just had another incident of talking about being a violation of someone's due process rights. I almost had my dumpster pulled again because I was 2 days late in not renewing my permit, and when I went in to renew my permit, I was told they're not going to give me a permit until the council votes. No disrespect, I had got my attorney on the phone. He called down there and said you cannot do that, and my attorney happens to be a solicitor for Cole Township and a few other townships. He told them you cannot selectively do that and just change the law based on one person, me. Now you want to change the law and I'm not allowed to have a dumpster permit again, and I'm being harassed. This is constant harassment. They gave me, it took my lawyer to have to speak to one of the council members to get me that I was permitted by law to have my permit renewed. This is the continued harassment. And now do you want to harass us on our rental homes if there's a problem with a boiler or everything? Go harass the slumlords that are here. Go harass and go find and go chase all the slum apartments that are here, because if I have to go, and I will, and even if I'm in jail, I will make sure of it, that the slumlords that are here that do not take care of their properties, I will make sure that the legal ramifications come to them. Because people are living in horrible conditions around here and no one does anything, and the city needs money, go find them. Go inspect their apartments. Make it mandatory that they register apartments and go inspect them. Inspect them and find them. Like you want to do me over a dumpster for 2 days, yet I've had a dumpster here for over a year and I've given the city now $1,300 to have a dumpster in front of my home. And it's because of renovations here. But how come other people aren't having the same harassment? How come other people don't have to have the city council vote on whether they get a permit, whether they're late or not to do it? Why are these things happening? Why is Stephen Bartos quoting things and allegedly recording conversations without notifying the other party? Why am I now possibly going back to prison on Monday for a violation that I did nothing wrong? These are the questions that need to be answered. And there's more. There is much more. And I'm sorry when people say, why are you trying to put down Shamokin? We're not trying to put down Shamokin. I believe Shamokin and Cole Township are a wonderful place, and I know Stephen Crone shares the same feelings as well as certain of our investors. What we're saying is what people are saying about Shamokin, interviewing them on both the good side and the bad side, if you want to call that, of what their opinions are. And people are entitled to make their opinions. And they are right about a lot of them. There is no organization here with anything, whether it's infrastructures, whether it's building permits, whether it just, the list is endless. You go to a city council meeting here, it's so hot in there, they don't even want people to, they try to take the garbage routes from men who have worked and families who have worked here for generations, because Stephen Bartos wanted to create their own municipal garbage company, yet the city has no money. Why aren't people doing something about all these different other matters? Instead, I have become the target. I have become a target, even used against, like Mr. Crone, and he is a good businessman. He is a good entrepreneur. And he has a solid background, and you should welcome him to your community. I have done nothing in this community. I have not broken any laws here. I see on the internet, I sell drugs, I do this, I do that. People, please. I hate drugs. I have nothing to do with any drugs. I have nothing to do with any of this what goes on here. Yet there's drugs on every corner around here, and I can prove it because we've talked to the people. There's people afraid to come out of their houses because they have drug houses behind them, or they've been threatened by the drug dealers. Go after them. If you think by going after me that this is going to go away, you're wrong. It's not going to go away. And it is very, very sad that you have had to spend as much time and the anger and the negativity that I have seen in this community when people just wanted to come here and help. That's all. And no one is asking for a dime from the community. You've caused children not to get football equipment. There could have been more jobs here already if there was cooperation here. You would have a lot of investors coming to your city and to create jobs in industry. And you say, I hear on the internet, it's dead, it's a dump, it's this, it's that. No, it's not. This city can be what you make it to be. And I've seen the difference since what I've made it to be with the projects that I have, or with Steven's projects that he has, and together what we've done. And yes, I consulted him and I brought this man here. He asked me, I thought this was a good investment area, and I still do. And I don't know what to say anymore because there is nothing else to say. I'm a human being. No one's out to rob anybody. No one's here to do anything but do right. And I pray, I truly pray that people do understand the severity of what may happen to me on Monday and thereafter, because this show will go on and the truth will still be told. And it does not matter what happens to me. And I feel for my family, I feel for my friends, and I thank all the people that have supported me and giving me that chance to prove that I'm not this person that's made out in the newspaper. And I'm not saying I'm not perfect, because I'm not. I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I'm not. But I am a good businessman, and I have been successful in my life, and people even want to rob me of that. People want to rob me of the years of good building and construction and good investments that I have made on Long Island and throughout other areas of New York and other places. People are trying to rob me of everything that I worked for in my life by continually posting in the newspapers and others that I'm this horrible person. How come this is not happening to murderers and rapists and child molesters and anything else? It makes no sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to outsiders as well looking in. I don't have to please everybody. I don't need to have everybody like me, and nor do I want you to. You either like me, you hate me, or you don't. But what I do ask is that you truly look at your city and this township and everybody that's been affected by this and look at the true problems here. And the true problems here start at City Hall. Those are the true problems here, as well as with slum landlords and other areas of serious concern here. That's where you should be looking. Not at me or Mr. Crone, because we have nothing we want from you except really support, and even that, if we don't have it, everything is going to continue. And this show will continue, and it's not to show Shamokin in bad light or Cologne Township. It is to show the truth of what goes on here in a good way as well as in the bad way, and to expose what we have come to find out. And all I can say is that this is just disheartening, because now I could go to jail on Monday again after I follow my rules and do my things, and I do nothing. I do nothing. Yes, I talk. I got a big mouth, and I'll admit it. And I will stand up and fight, and yes, I will. But if I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you I'm wrong. This time, I'm not wrong. Lackawanna County, what happened to me? The only thing I was wrong of is building a company, a multi-million-dollar company, too fast. And that was a mistake I made. No one deliberately tried to write checks, because I say to you, if there was just those few bad checks, how come there was $20 million worth of checks that have been cashed and the proof is there? And if I was going to go to trial when I was planning on it, I was just going to throw the checks up in the air and ask the jury, if there was an alleged plan to write bad checks, how come 20 million plus other dollars worth of checks in 2-3 years has cleared the bank? Things happen in construction. Things happen with investments. Things happen. There's no guaranteed investment. Never. I didn't see anybody else sticking their neck out here to or even as Mr. Crone has done, to come into a city to try to help it. You, as people and citizens, truly, truly need to look at what the problems are here. It's not fair to the children who live here. It's not good. It's not fair to the families that live here. It is not good because it's not what you think. You have to look outside the box that's here and truly look at, over the years, what has been kept from you. Big companies have been kept from coming in here. Good jobs have been kept from coming in here. And you're going to sit here and you're going to struggle and you're going to struggle. And if you're happy with that, then so be it. But this city was once great, and I believe it can be great again. And I just truly want to say this may be the last time that you see me, period. Because I'm heading into an area that is my life has been threatened, and it's not about prison, boys and girls, because I can do the prison time. I won't do prison time for something I didn't do, though. And not being set up by a police chief. And I will tell you, this has now become personal to me. I am legally going to make sure lawsuits are filed against this city for harassment, violation of due process, as is Mr. Crone. Lawsuits are going to be filed as against the police chief and others involved. And if my due process rights are violated again on Monday, I will file it then too. And this time, they're not being filed by me, but by the appropriate attorneys. This time is different than Lackawanna County. This time, I have good friends in place, I have professionals in place, and too many people know the truth here. And we've made sure of that. In closing, all I have to say is, please, people, look at this city and look at what your real problems are, because there's wonderful people here. This is a great city. It's got a great history. It's incredible with the coal mines here, and I actually have come to love all this history, and that's the truth. And I have family here. You don't have to like me, but don't try to destroy something that could make your city better. And no one's trying to hurt the city or put it down, as it's been quoted on Facebook. Out of a couple of clips from our show that has not even fully been finished, meaning it's in its editing and cutting stages now, and it does take hundreds and hundreds of hours. People think you could just whip this show up and put it on, and I want to address that before I end this. This is not some alleged show. This is not some phony thing. This is the truth. But it takes hundreds and hundreds of hours of film, editing, cutting, and to produce one episode, let alone 2 or 3. I want to thank everyone who has emailed me and Mr. Crone and others in our organization. I want to thank you all for your help, your support, everything that you have done for us. And all of those that have hung in there, and including other investors from outside this area, I want to thank you. And I just pray that Monday isn't what is most likely coming, because I don't think it's going to be a pretty outcome, because I've been there and I know what the outcome is going to be this time. Good night.